What is going on YouTube? You know, one of the coolest things about collecting is that everybody has their own distinct style. You know, there's really no two people alike, especially on YouTube. You know, you got people that collect a whole different variety of different things. You know, some people like vintage, some people like modern, some people like a combination of both. You got guys that deal strictly in TTMs. You know, you got, just every kind of collector you can think of. And that's what makes this hobby great, that it's so diverse. But one thing that I truly enjoy collecting that I do not see a lot of in other YouTube videos are personally owned items. Something that was personally owned by a superstar. It really is such a cool thing to collect, and it's just not a very popular thing to collect. One of the YouTubers that prompted me to make this video, or at least inspired me to make this video, is Steve, Carter's Kids. He actually owns vintage cards, including Mickey Mantle, that were owned by Gary Carter as a child. I mean, he's actually got, like I said, vintage cards that were from Gary Carter's personal collection, and I love stuff like that. Because anybody could just go out and buy, cards from the 60s, but how many people could say they were owned by another Hall of Famer? So with that being said, I'm going to show you guys a few of the items I have that were personally owned by Hall of Famers. The first one I want to show you real quick. This is pretty cool. So this is a golf ball that was personally owned by Joe Dimaggio. So there was a big auction back in 2006, a hunt auction, and his granddaughters were auctioning off a lot of his personal items, and one of the things they were auctioning off were some of his personalized golf balls. So I ended up picking this one up. I've had this for years, but it's just a really cool piece to have. Anybody could just go out there and buy, Joe Dimaggio signed baseball or something, but having a golf ball, and you look at the condition of it, he could have played with this one, and that is just really cool. So that's one thing I wanted to show you guys. I actually have a couple pieces from Ted Williams' personal collection, and this is one of them. See, it's a 1981 Perez Steel Warren Spawn from the Ted Williams collection. Now, there were many different sets of Perez Steel postcards, obviously. Now, Ted Williams had, I believe it was sets 5 and 6, if I'm not mistaken. And the guy who obviously won that sent it off to SGC, and they got all graded the Ted Williams collection. So every single one of these is a one of one. Nobody else will ever have the Warren Spawn from Ted Williams' personal collection, which that is just really cool to have. And like I said, I've always loved this postcard. And speaking of Ted Williams, this is, you really can't beat this for the most part. Ted Williams personally owned Casio Watch. Now, I may actually made a whole video about this watch. It's titled Ted Williams Personally Owned Watch. So if you guys haven't seen that, go back in my videos and please check that out. This was from an auction back in 2012 where his daughter Claudia was auctioning off a lot of his personally owned items. So I got this watch with the letter of provenance and a photograph of him wearing this watch. Now, when I first got it, obviously the battery had been dead for years. And I was kind of contemplating, should I wear this? Or is this something I should put in like a nice display case? Well, I was asking a lot of friends and a lot of family, and everybody's saying, dude, it'd be awesome if you just wore that. So I actually went to Walmart. They were able to put a battery in it. And as you could see, it works. And I'm wearing a wristwatch that was worn and owned by one of the greatest hitters of all time. And something like that you really can't beat. Now, another piece that I'm very proud of is this pipe that was owned by the great Cy Young. Now, this is actually pretty cool because This was owned by another famous person too, Gene Autry. Now, the way this pipe was found was in 2011, Gene Autry's office, all the items in it went up for auction. They found this pipe with an affidavit with it saying that it was owned by Cy Young, and it was given to a man named Keno Mastrell in 1953. So that's a couple years before Cy Young passed away. So it has a full affidavit saying that this pipe was owned by Cy Young, and this was in the office of Gene Autry. So that is just such a cool piece. You know, I have all the paperwork on that as well. And it's just such a rare item, you know. And in his older, you know, his later years, Cy Young was famous for smoking pipes. Actually, the famous photograph, 1939, the first class of the Baseball Hall of Fame, Cy Young is sitting there with a pipe in his hand. So that was always a really cool piece. And another cool piece, let me sit down for this one. This is a plaque that was given to Phil Rizzuto back in 1970. Now, yeah, I'm getting some bad glare, but you see a special award to Phil Rizzuto in recognition of his outstanding achievements in the field of sports by the Gerald J. Spatola Civic Association, November 28th, 1970. So this is a plaque that was given to Phil Rizzuto that I had gotten from actually a Leland's auction, so it comes with the paperwork from that, but that's just something completely different, you know, an award given out to he wasn't a Hall of Famer at the time, but he became a Hall of Famer, Phil Rizzuto. So like I said, everybody, I just find these pieces so fascinating, you know, that, you know, I have pieces in my collection that were owned by some, you know, some great Hall of Famers. It really is something, if you want something different and not just the everyday collectibles, that's the way to go. So I'm really hoping that you guys enjoyed this video, and I'm really hoping that in the near future I start seeing more and more collectors, maybe trying to pick up some pieces from the personal collections of just Hall of Famers or stars or just anybody you want. So YouTube, I really hope you guys enjoyed this video, and as always, I will see you guys next time.